So everyone that's here, I'm actually interviewing Thelin because I wanted to do it. It sounds like fun. So Thelin, I noticed on your page that you have photographed some amazing people like Ted Kennedy, Leonardo Nimoy, which is awesome, by the way. That is so cool. And some other really amazing people. Can you tell me the story behind that and how that came about?
Well, I've been a photojournalist for years, and then I just happen to be in right places at the right time sometimes. And like Ted Kennedy, he was at the University of Utah giving a speech, and I was a young photographer working for the Chronicle newspaper, which is the university's school newspaper. And so they said, go cover that for us. And of course, there's 500 other photographers there with big lenses and long telephoto and really nice stuff. And I've got a twin lens Yashica 2 1/4, and I'm like, I got to be really close. So I had to kind of climb up behind him and photograph him. And when I did, that's why you see if you have seen the photograph, it's kind of over his shoulder. And the lens was good enough that you can even read his notes. So, but that became the photograph, and it also became I don't know, I won a national news competition with that for college
Oh, wow.
students. So that's how that one happened. And Leonard Nimoy, he was here doing a fundraiser, and so we got to just meet with him and talk with him and other stars, and but that's in the '80s, so it's a long time ago. So, and then there's others. I spent an evening with Jay Leno, sitting in a bar with him because he came for American Hot Wax, which is a movie he was in, and it was a premiere here in Salt Lake. And so after that, after the premiere, they said, well, let's go interview him. And so the interviewers were there, and they were interviewing and asking me questions, and he just stayed there sitting at the bar. So he and I sat the rest of the evening just chit-chatting, and so we photographed him. And another person that was another photographer.
Yeah, I saw you took photos of Cole Sanders, and when I saw that, I was like, whoa, wait, that's the KFC guy, right?
That's the KFC guy. Yes, I did. He came to Salt Lake City because his original store that he opened up, the first one he opened, was in Salt Lake City. So he had this very kind of lighthearted thing going. I like Salt Lake City. So he would come back, and I was at a park. They paid me to come to a park and sit and photograph him with all these high-ranking KFC people. And so while we were doing that, there was a lull, and nobody was around to have pictures. So I walked up and I said, so can I have my picture taken with you? And he goes, sure. He says, but he said, let's make it quick. He says, I want to get out of here. I hate this place. He says, I want to get back and have some chicken. And I went, when you still eat chicken? He says, oh yeah, I eat the best damn chicken in the world. And I make the best damn chicken in the world. And I want to get out of here and go do this. So can we end this now? Can we stop this now? And I said, I can't stop it, because I said, they got to tell me when I stop photographing. And he goes, okay, well, let's do this. So he was fun, but he was kind of cantankerous. So, yeah. So Colonel Sanders was one of those that I did. And so all of all the famous people or anybody else that I photographed, they're all quite fun. And some of them are very dangerous. Like I was photographing Ronald Reagan at his campaign here in Salt Lake City, and I got about 3 feet away from him, and I was clicking pictures and doing things, and a Secret Service person came up and grabbed me, pulled me back out of the way, and he says, where's your credentials? And I went, for what? And he goes, you're supposed to have credentials to be in here. You're supposed to have been passed by the Secret Service. And I went, oh, nobody told me that. And he says, all right, you're out of here. So they threw me out, but I already had all my pictures. So I was like, okay, I'm fine with being thrown out. I got what I need. So yeah, it's just part of being, you just have to, when you want to cover things like this, you have to be adventurous. You basically have to just say, okay, I'm going to go do this. And when they throw a stumbling block in your way, you just figure out how to take care of it. Like I learned later on, it took me a few years, but I figured out that what I needed to do, if I needed credentials, I just made them. So I learned
Mm-hmm.
because I was working for a newspaper staff. So I learned how to go in,
Mm-hmm.
make up the credentials, typeset them just right, put them on, put my picture on the credentials, and just making up so I looked good. So everywhere I went from then on, I had credentials for whatever they wanted me. So whatever the situation was, I figured, well, I'll make me up some credentials for this newspaper or this whatever it was, and it worked. And then, of course,
And
sometimes they catch you and then they throw you out again.
so are credentials like permission to do the photography of the person?
Yes, basically, well, not so much the person; it's the event. It's like
Mm-hmm.
whenever they have something like a news event, they only let in people with the correct proper credentials. So you have to be from an accredited newspaper or from this anything that they have, and they're getting tighter on that. They used to be a little bit more loose, and but I also went to the state and said, I'm a photojournalist and I'm a press person. So can you give me a press pass? And they went, sure. So they gave me a press pass, and it was signed by the sheriff's department. So I used that for years, and people just let me in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just being inventive of what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes the creativity isn't just always about the photos itself, it's about all the other things as well.
Oh, it is. Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, if you really want the shot, you have to be very creative in getting it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I found out that there's a lot of other people out there who are bigger names than you are, bigger cameras than what you have, and look better than what you do. And so they let them in first. So then you go, oh, okay. What I need to do is I need to I need to be that way myself. So I started doing that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, definitely.
it paid off. It's like
And
there was like when Ansel Adams was here in Salt Lake City doing a book signing. I took my credentials and walked into the book signing and said, "Oh, I'm with this," and they said, "So I'm here to photograph Ansel Adams," and I said, "Okay, no problem." And so I was taking the pictures, and he said, "Well, sit down." So I sat down, and while he was signing books for other people, he and I had a pretty lengthy conversation for about 25 minutes. So,
wow, that's awesome.
and so it's like, and I was asking him all these lifetime questions like, I want to go to Brooks Institute in California. I want to become a better photographer. What do I do? How do I do this? And he goes, well, first off, don't go to Brooks. He said, because Brooks is a cookie cutter institution. Every photographer that comes out of there is the same. They look the same. They are the same. And he said, so you don't want to do that. He said, my advice to you, and this is actually good advice for any photographer, and that is that if you want to be a good photographer, what you do is you go out and you shoot and you shoot and you shoot and you shoot and you shoot. He said at that point, the cheapest commodity is film, which now our commodity is even cheaper because it's just a small little disc. And so he said, your cheapest commodity is film, so shoot all the film you can. And he said, and all that money that you're going to spend going to Brooks, you're going to pay $10,000 for tuition and then another $15,000 getting equipment. He said, go buy the equipment. And he said, and then just start shooting and shooting, and you'll find your passion. And he says, find out what you like to do best. So I did, and I photographed sports and went, yeah, that's boring. Okay, I came back with more pictures of the cheerleaders than I did the football games. So, so it's like, okay. So I realized that wasn't it. When I found out I like dance, then I really, really photographed. When you see some of my old dance pictures with the movement, I really
Yeah.
loved that. That was a passion. So I had to wangle my way into those a lot too. And because,
Are you talking about the long exposure ones you had where
yes,
they're dancing and it's all, yeah, those are awesome. I love those.
yep, those. And because the dance companies like to have their own photographers. And so when they have dress rehearsals, you either have to sneak in, and then because the lights are off, and when you're sneaking, they're like, pretty going, there's another photographer here. Who is that? And then they come over and grab me and throw me out. But or you take it to the credentials and say, I'm from this organization. We're a dance company. We want to photograph this. And they go, oh, okay, okay. So then they let you in. And
Hmm.
so you do one of those two things, and I did that and got the dance pictures. But it became that's one of the ones that became one of my passions. Um, and so his advice was to do that and just experiment with everything. And the one thing he said was, have you copied any of my pictures yet? And I said, what do you mean copied? Do you mean like put it down and copy it on a copy machine? And he goes, no. He said, have you gone out and tried to recreate any of my photographs? And I went,
Hmm.
well, yeah. And he said, did it work? And I said, no, not really, but it's a nice picture. And he says, which one did you do? And I said, well, it's your aspen trees. And he goes, oh, cool. He said, that's a good one. He said, keep working on that one. Try to get that one so you get it almost so it's perfect, just looking like mine. And I went, you don't care?
Hmm.
And I was in my late 20s, and he goes, no, I don't care. He said, that's great. He says, what you need to do, he says, you need to copy the masters. Look at the masters and see what they are and what they do, and then copy their work and try to emulate what they did. And when you can do that, then you're doing great, because you're getting the exposures, you're getting the light, you're getting the tonality and everything
Hmm.
that they produced. And if you can do that, you're going to become a good photographer, no matter where you go. He says, whether you're going to shoot rocks and trees like I do, or whether you're going to shoot commercial things, it doesn't make a difference. But you copy the masters. You need those masters, because he said it's kind of like having a basis. When you're building a building, you need a foundation. And if you've got these masters and you've copied them, you've got that foundation down. So that worked.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's awesome. Are you primarily well, were you through your career as a photographer, have you primarily been a photojournalist?
I started out that way, and because I could get into places, and I liked photographing everything, and I liked, you know, there was a time when someone here, there's a leading man here who, I guess he died now, but his name was John Huntsman from the Huntsman Corporation, and one of his sons was kidnapped, and it was like so incredible to chase around the city trying to find out where the kidnappers were with John Huntsman, and because he
Hmm.
was here and they were tracking him down. And I just got a police scanner and was listening to the police, and I was traveling all over. I didn't get any good pictures, but at the same time, it's the rush. It's really great.
Yeah, the thrill of the chase.
And it's like when I went up on top of there was a plane crash in Winnemucca. No, it was Wells, Nevada. And so a friend and I went to Wells, Nevada, and we went there and we said, okay, we're part of the Deseret News team here, and we're here to photograph this. And the sheriff was like really upset at us and goes, you're not photographing this. So he finally let us, and we took us up on top of the mountain, and we found the plane crash and everything, and we got to photograph it. But so it's that kind of a rush, and it's like dead winter. And it's like, so and everybody in the plane had died, and it was kind of one of those gruesome things. And I'm like going, wow, I'm not sure if I can handle all of this, but I did, and I made national news with it. So it was cool. So, but those kind of things kept me going. But eventually I worked into commercial photography, where I was doing food commercial work for people like Mrs. Fields and other companies.
Hmm.
So I went into commercial work because that's where the money is. And because you don't make any money as a photojournalist unless you win big Pulitzer Prize or some big newspaper magazine buys your prints. And I did a lot of work for national magazines too. And that's where you'd make some pretty good money. But so I think I started there, and then I went into, I like doing documentaries, so I like documenting things. And I've
Hmm.
done that pretty well. And then I went from there to the commercial work. And in between, I would do all my favorite stuff that I wanted to shoot, which
Hmm.
none of it is weddings. We all do weddings because we have to, and it's a buck. And it's like we put up with it, but it's like, no, that's not my favorite. But so we all have to do that. But that's paying your dues.
Hmm. It's balancing the photography that makes the money and the photography that makes you happy, and it's finding that middle ground of doing both.
It is. It's exactly that. And when you find that out, you can be happy. And there are some photographers that out there, they're making money at the get go, right off the bat, and they're making. I have a lot of good friends. One of my good friends went on to be one of the leading best Playboy photographers in the United States. And
Oh
he
wow.
he was from Salt Lake City, and he was like, "I'm going to go to California, and I'm going to go work. I'm going to go down there and see if I can't photograph for Hugh Hefner." And I'm like, "You're crazy," and he did. And he was the actually really the best one that they ever had. I have copies of some of his work and seen his original stuff that he shot, and was a friend of Hugh's right up until he died. In fact, lived at the mansion for many years. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, there are some that just strike out and make the money, and they're good.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I also saw in some of your like in your captions that you talk about how, you taught photography for a while.
I did.
Um,
Yeah, that was again another passion that I liked, but I kind of lucked into that. Someone saw me teaching at a 4-H for a bunch of little kids. It was just a Saturday afternoon 4-H thing, and they said, "You should be teaching this." And I said, "Yeah, I would like to," but I said, I don't know where to teach at." And they said, "Why don't you come up to the university and we'll let me teach up there?" And I went, "Are you sure?" And so, and I'd already had a bachelor's degree, and they said, "Yeah, just start." So they hooked me up, and I started teaching basic photography and darkroom work, and
hmm.
it just went from there. And then about 18 and a half years later, I retired, and but the whole time I was teaching maybe about 4 or 5 classes a week of
Oh
between
wow.
beginning photography, advanced photography, and that took me to. I thought, you know what? It's like every government agency, because this is a state
Hmm.
school. You have to know how to work the system. So I figured out how to work the system, and so I would take my students and have the university pay for it, and I would take them on field trips. Like we photographed every nook and cranny in the state of Utah. So I would have a class, and I'd set it up, and the university loved it. They said, "Okay, we have a 3-day class, and we're going to go photograph ghost towns." And so then we would just take a university vehicle and from the motor pool and load up the gear and everything and take off for 3 days and go photograph ghost towns and everything. And it eventually worked into, we went to San Francisco one time, we went to New York another time, and it led right up to in 1990 when I took 22 students over to Europe when the wall came down. And
Oh really?
yeah, so we spent 3 weeks traveling uh, the, well, it was not all of Europe. It was mostly the communistic parts of Europe we wanted to stay in.
Hmm.
And we had to be in
That
the
part of
normal
Germany.
parts, but we wanted to see all of that and discover that. But we were there, so we got to photograph the wall. We got to chip parts of the wall off with you pay $5 and a guy gives you a sledgehammer and you get 5 minutes to beat the wall up. you get to you get to do that, and then we got the dance on top of the wall. It's Brandenburg Gate is where all of this was taking place, and in a rainstorm we didn't care. It's like, hey, we're good. This
Hmm.
is good photography, and
Oh yeah.
so
In the rain is always, it makes it more fun and the photos turn out more interesting. They have more texture.
they do. And someone asked me last night. I was at a niece's wedding, and they said, "Well, what's your favorite photography?" And I said, "Bad weather. You give me bad weather." And I said, "I've photographed everything bad weather wise and had great results except a sandstorm. That was nasty." And that I kissed
Ruin your lenses completely.
it did. I kissed that camera goodbye because
Yeah.
the sand just beat everything. There wasn't a part of that camera that didn't have sand in it. So the guy that was cleaning it said, "No, there's nothing more I can do for this camera." So um, I'm doing a black and white series right now, a black series. So we painted
Hmm.
that camera completely black, lens and all, and
Hmm.
we've got the film painted black. Everything's painted black, so it can be just this pictures of black. But so that's where that one ended up. But so bad weather photography is really just awesome. Um,
Hmm.
at one time, there was a picture in the Instagram part of a bunch of clowns. It looks like that it actually was a university group doing a theater in the rocks down in southern Utah, and we were invited to go there and photograph them. And as we were photographing them, I could see in the distance the clouds were coming in, and it was just black. I mean, solid black. And I'm like, this is going to be nasty in a few minutes. And so as it kept getting closer and closer, and I'm getting all these great black shots and loving it, just loving the shots because it was. And I said, okay, you got about 5 minutes, and then this whole place is going to be downpour. And it was. In 10 minutes, there was 3 feet of water floating around where we were standing. And that's just what southern Utah is like that. You have flash floods, and sometimes those flash floods go up to 10 to 15 feet if you're in the wrong canyons. So, yeah. so you kind of, it's street smarts for the, you think street smarts are just for the cities. But street smarts, when you're inside of country and you have woods and you have everything else, you got to know what to do. So I had learned about that, so that's why I got out of there really quick. And I was the last one to jump into the van with the rest of the students, because I had students with me, and take off. And we everything was soaked. But I saved that camera.
I think any shoot where your camera is either destroyed, soaking wet, or any other destroyed state is always the best ones.
Well, about a year and a half ago, I'm a veteran. I was in the U.S. Army, and so I was on this veteran snowshoeing expedition up at Snowbird here in the mountains. And I went off a 50-foot cliff because the snow just kind of gave way, and down I went, and I landed in this water, and it was a river going by, and it was the February, yeah, I think it's February. Anyway, so I fell in the water. I broke my foot, my ankle. It kind of like almost, the only thing left holding it on was my tendons and some blood vessels, and so but I lost my camera was around my neck, and it was like, and I lost my Canon Mark III. I had a Mark III at that time, but I lost that one because it totally went down in the water with me. And so everything works fine. I still got my little foot back, but it's still, yes, I know what you mean, because my motto was with all of my students was like, if you're on an edge or you're on a cliff or you're doing something and says you fall over, have somebody grab the camera, because that's hard to replace the film.
Like the amount of times I'll fall, and instead of bracing myself, I'm just lifting my camera up.
Yes.
And like my family will look at me and like, what, you just fell and you didn't stop yourself at all. I'm like, yeah, but the camera's more important.
Right. And exactly, it is that. And it's like, people don't understand that. They go, well, why would you save your camera? You can buy that. And it's like, yeah, but it's like, the thing that happens there between a photographer and their camera, if you really are shooting a lot of film or a lot of digital, you're shooting it a lot, it is your friend and it is your baby. And so you do take care of it, because if you take care of it, I have a Hasselblad that I bought in 1972, and it's still working. I've taken care of that baby all those years, and that Hasselblad is just awesome. It's a great camera, and I still shoot with it today. I was on a shoot if you saw the one with the mannequins, I shot in the desert, like where they're running.
I did see that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I shot that with black and white too, with film, because I wanted to have that on film besides the fun stuff with the digital. But so I still shoot that same camera. But you have this relationship with your camera. My wife used to always say when I'd get a new camera, and she'd go like, "Are you taking that to bed with you again tonight?" And I'm like, "What?" And she'd go, "I see you with that camera next to the bed or on the bed," and it's like, "What's up with this?" And it's like, okay, you don't understand. It's there's this relationship between a person and their camera. It's like so, and I think it's
Hmm.
the same with the person who plays an instrument. You know, someone who has a
Yeah,
guitar or
like
someone who has a
a
violin.
musician in there.
Yeah,
Mhm,
there's a
yeah.
relationship between them. They even name their musical instruments. I haven't named any of my cameras, but
I should do that. I'm getting a new camera soon. I'm gonna name it.
yes,
That's a good
yeah,
idea. I'm gonna
and
do
and
that.
yeah, and do that. It's like, but so yeah, I enjoy it. My range of cameras go from uh, I have I had Nikons, I have had Canons,
Hmm.
and have Minoltas, and I have a 4x5 Linhof camera, which is a German, really beautiful. It's 1967 camera, beautiful, and it's just the engineering is gorgeous itself. And I have several other
Hmm.
4x5s, and I have an 8x10, and but I've shot all of those, and they all still work.
Hmm.
All of them still shoot just fine because I've taken care of them. Now there's a few that have bit
Oh
the
yeah.
dust in between, like my twin lens reflex, that's gone, and my other 35 in the sandstorm, that was a Minolta, that's gone. That one's gone. So there's some
Hmm.
that bite the dust and go away. Oh, and I have contacts. I shot contacts for
Hmm.
probably 10 years because of
Oh yeah.
The Zeiss lenses are incredible.
Hmm.
And so yeah, but that's my range of cameras, and I still shoot with all of them. Most of them I shoot with any digital is all done, or any color is all done with my. I have a Mark Canon D5 D4. I have
Hmm.
the D4 that I use, and but if I'm going to shoot anything in black and white or convert it, I shoot it on film, and I'll use either my contacts for the black and white 35, or I shoot the 2 1/4 Hasselblad. And I still
Hmm.
go out and shoot 4x5 too. I take my Linhof out and go shooting with that. Because there are people who are like,
Do you?
we'd like to learn how to shoot a 4x5. And I went, well, come out with me. I've got two of them, three of them. So if you want to come out, I'll let you use your own. And we can just, I've got all the holders and everything else you need to do. Um, so I still shoot them. They're fun.
Hmm. Awesome. Do you prefer film or digital?
Yeah. Okay. I prefer film when it comes to black and white because the tonal ranges are absolutely phenomenal. You can't believe
Hmm.
what I can do in the darkroom, or anybody should be able to do in a darkroom with tonal ranges on paper. And the magic of
Hmm.
watching the picture come up off of this white
Hmm.
page in the chemicals, that never has stopped. The first time I ever saw that happen when I was taking a basic photography class, it was like, wow. I mean, this is like, you really are the magician because you're watching this magic happen. And still, I can go in the dark room tomorrow or today and watch that stuff pop up, and I'm still just as excited to see that image pop up as I was the first time. There is that magic, and it
Hmm.
never goes away. But color, oh, I love my digital because it's so great to look at the back and go, oh, okay, I think I got this. So I'd like to change this, and I change that. And then I also love the process of sitting at my computer and going, all right, I want to change this. I got to change this, and I'll do this. I don't like to Photoshop much, and I don't like to do a lot of changing, but there's slight amounts that
Hmm.
are great. So
Hmm.
I'd say probably 95% of my work has never been Photoshop, never had all the special
Oh
effects
yeah.
dropped into it. And there's 5% where, like,
Hmm.
yeah, I'll throw in the special effects and do all the crazy stuff.
Hmm.
But, and that's that. So I do love that. I love my digital a lot for that. And then you have to think that it's like when you were shooting film, film was like, I think I've got it. I know what I want. I can see it. I want this, and I want the black and white just right. I want the color just right. I want the shadows just right. I want this streaming light to come in. And the
Hmm.
only way you could figure out if you had it was put on a Polaroid back. And a
Hmm.
Polaroid back at that time, you could buy one for a Hasselblad, but most of it was just for 4x5s. And so if it was a serious shot, like all of my rendezvous posters that I have done, or my Civil War posters, all those that I've done, I shot those 4x5. And then I would look at them and say, yep, okay, this is good. Okay, change this, change this. And so most of it was just like, I hope I got it. I think I did. And so when you develop the
Mm-hmm.
film and you pull it out and you're screaming in the darkroom going, yeah, I got it. This is perfect. And then when you print it, you're just more excited. So
Mm-hmm.
that now has been replaced by, I've got it on there because I can see it in the camera. And then I see it when I put it in the computer. And I go, yes, I captured it perfectly, exactly what I wanted. I was shooting something 2 days ago, and I wanted to make sure I had the golden light from the afternoon, and I could see it. But when I shot it with digital, I could see exactly where the light was, and I wanted it perfect. So then I was like, got it. So that's the great part about digital. So yes, I do. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, there's not one I hate one or like one more. I think it's they both have a great purpose. But you have to be a film person to want to do film, and because it's a lot of work. It's just
It's definitely, yeah.
it's just like
It's definitely something I want to try. I've never been able to do it, and I've never actually been interested in doing it. But recently, in the past, like, a few weeks, I've seen a bit of a spike in, or a bit of a trend in, film cameras. So people who have only done digital are trying out film, and I'm like, that sounds like fun. I need to try that.
oh, it really is. I mean, it is. It's with digital, you have a great rush right off the bat, and it's like, and you see
Mm-hmm.
it because it's there. But with film, that rush just goes on because it's like you. First off, it's processing the roll of film, and then seeing the negatives and going, wow, I've got these great negatives. And then after that, it's like printing them. And what I see on Instagram, that probably the biggest percentage of people using film in the world are all using color film. They're shooting color film, and then they're processing it and sending it to a processor, and it's C41, and then they scan it in, and they're making their prints from color. And I'm like going, it looks good, but you know what? Where it's at's in black and white. Color, color is good, but it's like digital is better in that realm. But
Mm-hmm.
I understand that because when I started doing film, I used to sit in my bathtub because you have to, when you're processing color film, you have to be right on plus or minus a half a degree or 1 degree. Otherwise, you have big color shifts. And so I would sit in the bathtub with this, keeping the water was the same temperature and trying to keep it all so that I had my temperature exactly plus or minus a degree to process my slides or process my color film. And so I know how that is. It's like, yeah, I would do it again still.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I've got to this point, no, I think I just want to stick with my black and white and do that. And so, I do. I have a full working darkroom that I can process. I don't do any color in it, but I have 3 enlargers in there, and so I can print anything I want. I got all the paper I ever need, and got good stereo music in there because that's the most important part of any photographer.
Oh,
When you
definitely.
when you are sitting at the computer or whether you're in the darkroom, if you don't have good tunes, you're not going to get good stuff. You got to have that behind you. And then the next thing is that you've got to have a little refrigerator with drinks and snacks, keep you going because sometimes you're there for a long time. So when you get those things going, the creative juices really flow. Now there was a photographer that I knew. I'm trying to come up with his names. He shot in World War II, and I met him once, and we talked. And his mainstay was a bottle of whiskey in his darkroom. And so anytime anybody photographed him in his darkroom, they had to make sure that his bottle of whiskey was photographed with him. So, so we all have our different things, but mine is you have to have good tunes. So I have a really nice, and I have Bose speakers, so I hear good. It's nice quality, and but that's important in the whole scheme of everything.
Yeah, definitely. I sometimes when I'll do a shoot, I'll listen to the same music and songs that I do when I take the photos, and then I repeat it when I edit it. And I don't know, whenever I do that, they always turn out better.
Oh yeah, no,
It's
that's
a bit of
that's an awesome way to do it, and we have that capability of being able to do that. back when the early days, it's like, yeah, you had to turn on a cassette tape and play that in a boombox before you could hear it, and then try to put it back into the darkroom with you. But now, yeah, with our phones, I mean, it's like my i11 phone that I have. I love it because I've got the 256 gigs, so I got all the space I need, and I have all the tunes on it that I want, and the movies I want, and everything is right there. So I can just plug that baby right into my um, darkroom stuff and hear exactly what I want, and play it over again, and hear it, go back and change it. So that's the nice part.
Yeah. Right. So I have another question for you. Is there a particular photo that you've taken in your career that you were extremely proud of, or that you grew the most from?
There is, and I haven't even put that on Instagram yet because it is one of my favorites, and it's called Horse and Rider. It was shot during and I have to find my wife here for a minute. But I'm standing in the middle of a river. Al, they're here. Okay, would you go let them in, please? They're honking at the gate. And the soldiers are going one way, the Indians are going another way, and I'm in the middle of the water up to my waist, photographing this, and it's all in film. And so my shot is this horse and rider, and he has like 10,000 droplets of water all the way around him, and it's just amazing. So that's probably one of my favorites that I have that I totally love.
Is this a photo you took? Well, I saw that you photographed like Civil War reenactments. Is that one of them?
No, that's the Custer battle. It's in that same era, but it's the Custer battle was up. It's where the Indians are fighting with Custer, and so there's not. It's mostly just the horse and rider stuff that work because you can't. Well, no, I have actually posted. I think I have posted some of the Custer stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, I saw them.
Yes, and
that's what I was referring to.
Yep. So I have done some of those. Those are they're good stuff, and they like them. And but I haven't put horse and rider on there yet. I don't know why. I just haven't done it. I thought, well, I'll eventually get it on there and then put it up so that they can see it. But it's magnificent when it's large. So I'm thinking, okay, it probably look good small on the phone, but as a 16 by 20 print, that's a beautiful piece. So, and I've only I do have it in digital. But most of anybody sees a print of it, it's all fiber based. I've done it all in the darkroom. But that's probably my ultimate favorite piece. In fact, that's in my library where I have my work up on the walls. It's the biggest piece I have in there.
And I want to remind you, please let me know when you don't have because I don't want to take up your entire day, but I have so many questions. So when you're done, just let me know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in fact, maybe on another call, I can do a show and tell, and I can walk you through on the darkroom, and also walk you through the library and see the stuff that I have up on the walls and that I have photographed and that are important. There's a series that I have that I did from a rendezvous, and I did a very special, not special effects. I toned them because when you get into toning in the darkroom, there are all these different chemicals that you have to use, and I bought my chemicals, but I also made my own toners from raw chemicals. which was dangerous. But then, it's,
Again, when it's dangerous, it's more fun, and the photos turn out
it,
better.
it is. It's like I never even used gloves in the darkroom for the first 20 years because I was like, that's not a problem. But not knowing that the chemicals are probably doing osmosis through my fingers. But and then there's some of these chemicals that when you're working with them, they turn your fingernails dark, black. And it's like, okay, so they're black for a couple of weeks. That's okay. And then it's like, you don't think about it. Now it's like, yes, you're wearing gloves, but nobody was around in those days to tell you, oh, you're not supposed to do this. You just do it and go, I don't think I should do this anymore. And it's kind of like what has happened. But so I made these very special tonal ranges for this set of prints, and there's like a set of 8 prints that are just, and they're totally look like they're from the 1800s, and that's what I was working with. In fact, if you turn them right, there's a little bit of iridescence going off of the print, and working that, and so that series I'm really proud of, and I could never reduplicate it again because you can't go back. I mean, you can't. Well, number one, I never wrote down any of the formulas when I was making the chemicals for the toners. The regular chemicals for processing, printing, that's all the same. But toners, they changed a lot because, again, I would have the raw chemicals. And it wasn't until like probably 15 years ago, I was looking at this one chemical, and I thought, wow, I better read what this says. And I looked on there, and it's like, if one of those little crystals dropped onto my hand, it would just keep eating it away until it went through my finger. And I went, I don't think I better use this anymore. So I disposed of it in the proper way. I thought I better take that out of my chemical system because, it's like I wouldn't want to have to drop that on my foot or something like that and go through my shoe. And so, and you never know. It's like they're just little crystals. So I did do that.
Wow. Well, I think we'll end off with one last question, and well, what is the greatest experience that you've had through photography? Meaning, it happened because of photography, so like either it was what it took to take a photo or what it happened while you took it, etc.
I think probably that goes back to that horse and rider. That's probably, I think, one of my greatest experiences because you don't really think that you're going to be standing in waist high in water taking pictures while the Indians are running behind you on horses and the cavalry in front of you, and I having to do 360s and turn around and photograph them again and turning and shooting, and I'm loading film in the water and doing this, and it's like, and they are not like 6 feet or 10 feet away from me, they are 3 feet away from me. So water was splashing all over me and all over my camera, all over everywhere, and that was probably the biggest rush and the biggest thing. And it's like, and I've got the most magnificent photographs. I mean, there's whole nother series of just the battle that they had in the water, and I haven't put those on Instagram yet either. And I've captured that, and it's, again, just this marvelous stuff that you can. And I actually have photoshopped some of that because I had to take the trucks out in the background.
Oh yeah.
That's a long story, but there was FBI trucks all over the background because this was an Indian uprising kind of thing, and so they were all over. So we had to take the trucks out of the background so that we wouldn't see this Indian battle with these black SUVs that they put in. But I think that's it. I think that's probably the most memorable and fun and most exhilarating experience because it's a rush that you can't ever. I don't know if I'll ever get to do it again. I think if I got to be able to stand in a bunch of stampeding horses and photograph them, that would probably be really cool and get the kind of shots that I got. But that's a little bit more dangerous in the water. Yeah, so.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Um, I'm gonna pretend like I remember how to pronounce your name. El
Thelin. Thelin. It's like,
Thelin.
yep.
El Thelin.
It's
Thank you.
Swedish. It's Swedish, so it's like that's why
Uh-huh.
the Swedes make it with the Thelin, but they can't pronounce
Hmm.
the H. Try to ask a Swede or a Norwegian or someone to pronounce an H, they can't do it. So, but they
Hmm.
use them, so it's there. So,
Sweden's awesome. I have not been there yet. I cannot wait to go there.
oh, that's awesome. That it is. It's it is. I am Swedish, but the most picturesque is Norway.
Norway, yeah.
Yeah, but
Isn't there a thing where Swedes hate Norway? Isn't that like a thing?
yeah, that's the same with the Danes. They all, they all love each other, but they hate each other at the same time, and and they all sort of understand each other because it's kind of the language is kind of close to each other, but not there.
Hmm.
But but it has been delightful to be with you. So yes, do call me again sometime and let me know, and we'll do this and show you some of the fun things that I'm still doing.
That would be amazing. Thank you.